Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Ann Ziola, and I am the Executive Director of Alumni Engagement at Doane University. And our goals in the Alumni Office are always to educate, engage, and empower our alumni and friends. And we are excited to have you join us for this webinar in our brand new professional and personal development program called Lifelong Tigers. This webinar will be recorded and shared on our webpage, and we are also live today on Facebook. So hello to everybody joining us via social media today. Today, the Doane Alumni Association is hosting a program called All Things Czech, Heritage, Traditions, and More, presented by Doane historian Janet Jeffries. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you are joining us through Zoom and you have any issues with connectivity, problems hearing, be sure and leave us a message in our chat box, and that's located at the bottom of your screen on the Zoom toolbar. Our Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement, Mike Stellick, will be there to help you with those items. And you can also chat with each other in the chat box about your own heritage or comments on some of the things that Janet is presenting today. If you have any questions for Janet during the presentation, please type them into the question and answer box, and that's located in the bottom of your toolbar as well. And we'll have time throughout the presentation and at the end to answer questions, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. You'll also notice that you'll be able to see Janet's face off to the side during her slideshow, and that might cover up some of the pictures just a tad, but we can always make those pictures available to you afterwards if needed. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Janet Jeffries. Janet is the Doane University historian, and she is a descendant of 19th century Czech immigrants with ancestors from both Bohemia and Moravia. Janet has actively studied and promoted Czech heritage, culture, and genealogy at Doane and in Nebraska for more than 30 years. While now retired from full-time work at Doane, she has hosted 20 tours to the Czech land since 1992, which have included alumni for the ride as long as we can remember. Janet is a member of the Nebraska Humanities Council Speakers Bureau, offering a program on Czech costumes, and also does musical performances featuring Czech vocals. Janet, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, now Ann and Mike, am I on?
Yep, you are ready to go. We can see you and hear you.
Okay, because I can't see me. Okay, well, hello everybody. I should say Vítame vás. Today we're going to get into a Czech mode. Particularly, a lot of us in Nebraska have been missing all of the Czech festivals that have been canceled, and this is Czech Festival Week in Wilbur. It's Thursday. My family and friends and I would typically be frantically setting up our exhibit there, preparing to open tomorrow at 2. So it's very strange that we're not there, but it actually wasn't as much work either. So as Ann said, I've been around Doane for 30 some years, and I know a lot of you probably, and I know I have a lot of relatives, I think, tuned in. We have some of Thomas Doane's relatives tuned in too, so hi ladies. My mother is the Czech, so that's why I don't have a Czech last name. And I started genealogy as a teenager, and I don't know why I became so obsessed with Czech, but when I went to the University of Nebraska, I took that for my foreign language, and I was trying to read old documents. And I got into this textile situation and costuming, I think, because I love to sew and embroider and so on. And so I was gravitated to that. And I kept asking my grandma, where did our people come from? What would they have been wearing and everything? And she probably got tired of that. When I came to Doane, there was already a Czech concert going on. Professor Hubert Brown had made the spring band concert a bit Czech. He invited local musicians, and they played some music that our local composer Lumir Havlicek had written. And so I was asked, David Osterhout, as we all remember David, he knew about my Czech background. So he asked if I would help take that over. So from 1989 to 2011, I was doing that. Then I met Eve Bach, a wonderful lady who was teaching German there. She was a Czech immigrant. And David came to me again and said, could I take over Elder Hostel? And I said, sure, but can it be Czech? And I think our New Englander background people were a little skeptical, but even I got together and we made a great curriculum, and we did that from 1989 to 2005, and we had standing room only, so that was a lot of fun. After that, they said, well, you keep telling us about it, why don't you take us there? So then that led to the trips. Anyway, so yes, I've been involved forever. And what we're gonna do today, let me see about moving along on my slides. This is my first webinar, so I might be a little slow. So here's the Czech Republic, and you see Prague there in the, up here. You can see my cursor. And this is not Slovakia, so this is simply Bohemia right here. This is kind of an imaginary line, the Czech Moravian highlands, and then you get into Moravia. And our Czechs who settled around here were mostly from Moravia or Bohemia, not so much Slovakia. So, you know, some people laugh at me if I suit up because they think I'm looking a little bit like this grandma. And Marla, if you're on, this is your ancestor too, from your Czech side. And so anyway, I was trying to look like her. This is a little clip from our humanities speaker program. My daughter Liz helps a lot. And what I want to do now is kind of get us in the mood. We are wearing the costume of not exactly our village, but we are wearing the costume of any Závodní relatives that are on. You should be wearing something like this. But this is not the correct vest from our village. This is a nearby village vest. And we'll talk about the costumes in a little bit and how they're so complicated. They are just so complicated. Like a coat of arms. Any little tiny thing can differentiate from a different village. So to get in the mood, I know a lot of you have been there to the Czech Republic or you've studied. And since we can't travel, let's just first get in the mood a little bit. And when people think of the Czech lands, they might think of some of these topics. This isn't everything. So of course, everybody wants to go to Prague. And that's great, and there's all the beautiful architecture, all kinds of architecture, Baroque, Gothic, Neoclassical, and we don't have time to talk about all that. But here are some main sites of Prague that some of you, if you've gotten to go there, will recognize. So upper left, we have Old Town Square, and there's the Teen Church. And we've got New Town Square, or Wenceslas Square, down here at the bottom. Liz was looking out of our hotel room. It was a nice view. Here's that same view at night over here. And then here's the Powder Tower leading from Old to New Town Square. Here is St. Vitus Cathedral and Vladislav Hall. And some more interesting sites. Charles Bridge, everybody knows about that, and the clock. The Prague clock is dating till 1410, but it had a fabulous restoration in 2018. It was covered up for months and months, so travelers didn't get to see it. There's the crowd here. As you know, this is where everybody's staring at the clock. Here's the Lenin Wall. And here's the Infant of Prague statue and church. A lot of the churches is called Our Lady Victorious, and it's over across the Charles Bridge from the Old Town. And we've started going there because many people want to give a prayer to the infant. And again, you'll have to like research some of this because we don't have time to talk about it, but here he is in his little altar. And so that is always a very thrilling sight for many travelers. Here's some more architecture, and I want to show Telch down here. This is Wilbur's sister city. And I believe that happened, 1993. They made an agreement, and so people travel back and forth and they bring gifts to one another, and we meet with the mayor, and that's a fun thing. And it's very a cool place. with the arcaded passageways, so you can be shopping there in the rain. A great souvenir then is everybody's buying these little Telch houses. They're exact replicas of the real deal. Over here to our left on your screen is Kootena, St. Barbarous Church, built by the miners, and she was the patron saint of miners. And so it's very great. Started in 1388, completed in 1905, so it took a while. And of course, these flying buttresses are the main feature. Over on the right, I don't know if I'm hiding this with my little head. I think you can maybe drag me out of the way. I don't know. This is Cesky Krumlov, the town square. And right about here, there's a little stone that you don't want to step on, or they claim you'll be wandering all night. I don't know. We've tried it, and we always were in our room, so we did okay. Down below is Cesky Krumlov. So these are some of the main sites that a lot of people tend to go to on tours. On our tours, we like the folk architecture, and so upper left is Hoblot, a nice little town, and to the right, the Lidovekroya shop is in another little village, and it's just a village house that they made into a place where you can buy fabrics and braids. And so it's nice to stop there and get some costume parts. The bottom I'm just showing is our, I should say it right, Trinity house in Biskopice in South Moravia. And so we feel it's haunted, and it's a very long story, but we do love the villages. And when you think of Czech Republic and architecture, don't discount the cute villages. Here we are. Here's a like folk architecture book. I keep buying these books. They're all in Czech, but I can read some parts. Here we are up on the Polish border in Uzurka. Here's another cute village house. And if any, let's see, who could be on here? Oh, the great-grandma Neshbar. This is where she was born, right here in Duzbanov, in North Bohemia. This log structure is in Rožnov in Vlašsko, way on the Slovak border. And down here is Litomyšl. So I'm kind of jumping around, but I just want to show, because sometimes I kind of don't like it that everybody thinks about the high, style architecture, and there's so many other cool places. Now, one thing that we've had great fun discovering in the last few years are these village study books. And in a previous life, I was with historic preservation, and David Murphy, if you're on here, here are two books that we would kill for, and we wish we could have written these about our Nebraska towns we were surveying. So we have in the upper right, Dlouhé, and what these certain scholars are doing, this is house number 3 in Dlouhé, and here at the bottom it lists everybody who lived there, who built it, it's their whole genealogy. And here's another one I found last year, Duzbanov. So that's been a fun thing, and it talks about the architecture. Here are some sites. Now we're going to just move in. Many of you have seen Lidice, the town, ruins of the town destroyed by the Nazis, and here's the children, the 88 children who were killed. And the town was destroyed in June 1942 on orders from Hitler. And so there's this monument there. On the far right is a very interesting, hope you can see it and my head isn't in the way, is the Charlie Hoblot Memorial. And if you grew up in Saline County and you know the Hoblot family, he was from Dorchester. And he was the last American killed in the European theater. And he's from our Dorchester, Nebraska, just down the road. And he was killed May 7th, 1945, just a few minutes after the surrender. So the war was literally over, but there was, how would they know exactly? They were in the Shumova Mountains. And a military club from Pilsen built this great monument. Look how huge it is. And we wanted to find it, and so we did several years ago. Some of you travelers, if you're on, you might see yourself in here. And so we try to take flowers, and we visited the town hall, the mayor one year, because we wanted to hear more about it. And they have a celebration out at Charlie's Memorial every year on May 8th, and they put flags in these poles. And so it's really special, and there's a legend there in that case that is in English too, and it explains, and they are so proud that the Americans liberated them. And so down here in the left is Charles Mozarik's grave, the first president of the Czech Republic, 1918, when it became the Czech Republic. And so this is down the road from Prague a ways. He died in 1937. Here's another astronomical clock that is quite old, dates to the 15th century, but it's been rebuilt several times. And this is in Olomouc. This last reincarnation is 1959. It's in a communistic mode. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see the workers here on either side. To the right is the famous Bones Church. And that is, it's called it's the Sedlec ossuary. And it is near Kootena, where we saw St. Barbara's Cathedral. And so this, all this artwork is made up of about 40,000 skeletons. They died mostly during the Black Plague in 14th century. Now, some of you may not know that the sugar cube was invented in the Czech Republic. This is in Moravia, to be exact. This is in Dačice, which is near Telch, actually, not too far from Wilbur's sister city. And so on the town square, they have this great monument to the sugar cube, which is really cool. And there are these little slabs that say in every language that the first sugar cube in the world was manufactured here in 1843. So that's kind of fun. Back to Olomouc, here's the plague column. And they built it to, it's really the Holy Trinity column is the official name. They built it between 1716 and 1754 to celebrate the Catholic Church and the end of the plague. And then, of course, in the old country, as we Czech Americans call it, there's always some storks around at the right time of the year and some leftover maypoles. This is a June photograph, so the maypole was still there. Music is another thing that we think of a lot with Czech Republic, because around here, and any of you who went to Doane, even if you're not Czech, it had to rub off on you that you lived here for 4 years and, you know, probably hit a few festivals, or you were downtown at a bar and there was a polka band. And so we have the brass bands more in Bohemia. And then in Moravia, it's more the dulcimer bands. And then we have our bagpipers. Here's a bagpiper. I don't know if you, like I say, sometimes my picture's in the upper right. And the Czechs have their own bagpipe. We like to say the Czechs are very smart bagpipers because they, well, here's another one. Here's Antonin with his bagpipe right here with the yellow knickers. The Czechs don't have to blow into their bagpipes like the Scottish do. They use the bellows. And you can't really see in the picture, but the bellows pump the air in. And so they can sing and play at the same time. So there's always dancing and festivals going on. People like to think about garnets when they think of the Czech Republic, because maybe a grandma left you some garnets. And so that's always an interesting thing. There's a garnet mine in Turnov, which is like northeast of Prague. And a good thing to know, according to our guides and all, the Czech garnets are little. And so like this garnet, and you know what, my mouse might have died. In the upper right of the garnet picture, there's that pendant with a bigger stone in the middle. That bigger stone is probably mined somewhere else because the Czech garnets are very deep blood red and small. So there, and that's a favorite garnet shop there on in Prague, but there's a lot of good ones around. Then there's the food. Everybody's excited about the food. And so upper left is a great salmon meal we had, and upper right is a great lunch sandwich. And there's all kinds of cookbooks, and I bet a lot of you cook in Czech. You're cooking Czech meals. And then I had to show the feather brush, because many of us still use these brushes made out of goose feathers all the time for pastries. They're so much better than those stiff brushes you get other places. And you can get them in Wilbur at the museum, and the craft shop, I think, sometimes sells them. Now, then there's this, what you could call the spirits. Oh, here's Liz with some oplotki. She's out in front of the store in Karlovy Vary. And Karlovy Vary is a spa town in northwest Bohemia. And they make the Bekarovka there. That's where the factory is, and it's a herbal liqueur. And there's all of this mineral springs, and you go there and get a treatment, and actually their insurance covers that, which is great. So if you get a backache or something, and your doctor might prescribe that you go to Karlovy Vary for a week and take a bath in number 12 and then drink 2 shots of Bekarovka or whatever. And the oplotki is like a really thin wafer. And so they make them all over, and they're a lot of fun. The people who are taking the cure there at the spring water are drinking out of these mineral cups. And I don't know, Mike, if you can make your mouse go on that. I put a new battery in, but I don't know why it's being weird. But you see the cup on the right that is white, and it has a spout on it. So it's very handy, because you can go around and fill your cup up at a spring and then just sip it out of your straw that's built in. Then look at all the cases of beer in the upper right. That's at the Budvar, or the real Budweiser plant. Lower right shows us at a winery. Okay, I'm going to approve, but how can I do that without my mouse? Don't worry, I'll do it, Mike. Maybe. There we go. Now Mike can point if I, oh, there's Mike's mouse. Okay, and ceramics is something that a lot of people don't know a lot about. And in the upper right, the brown Litomyshl, that is Northeast Bohemia. I didn't used to like it, and now I really do. And so that's another thing, just like the costumes, like if you're studying your family, people like to learn about that and know that, like in my family, we are from the Litomyshl area, so I guess maybe some ancestors were using this kind of ceramic. I think, and you guys can attest, the bottom right, Domažlice, is South Bohemia, and many of our, like Saline County Czechs, a lot of Nebraska Czechs are from South Bohemia. And this is the kind of, this black pottery is something that I think a lot of us saw in some great grandma's houses. Nobody ever brought the brown things into my family. And then on the left is Modra, that beautiful yellow and green plate, and the bottom little dish. So now we're going to go to Nebraska and get down to what's going on here. So Nebraska, Saline County, where Doane is located, Crete's located, had the largest number of 19th century Czech immigrants, second to Omaha or Douglas County. And you can see here we had 1,300 families living here in 1928. Douglas County, Omaha, up, and I don't know, Mike, take it away if you want, up where Omaha is, there they had 2,000 families. And so this just gives you an idea. When Rose Rositsky wrote her book, History of Czechs in Nebraska, in 1928-29, then she had this map in there. A lot of us think, we also had a lot of early 20th century immigrants coming too, but most of our, like a lot of us, can claim ancestors from the 19th century. A lot of us think of our ancestors as peasants, but many were highly educated. But when they came here, they needed to homestead to get going, and so they became farmers. Some of them supported the businesses or trade in the frontier towns. So our Czechs here in Saline County came before our New Englanders who founded the college. So some Czechs were here already in the 60s, because to review, Nebraska became a territory in 1855 or 4. The Homestead Act was 1862. So some Czechs, started coming along with a ton of other people. We became a state in 1867. Settlers came to the Creektown site then in the mid 1860s, right after the Homestead Act. And Thomas Doane, who came through building the rail line, he came through in 1869 from Plattsmouth, brought the line through Crete in July of 1871. The first train came through Crete. And I think we've all heard the story of Thomas Doane, and we have 2 of Thomas Doane's great-great-granddaughters watching, and so that's great. So hi, Pat and Susie, maybe Martha's on too. And so we were incorporated in 1871. Thomas Doane built the academy, which is like high school level, in 1871, and Doane was officially incorporated July 11th, 1872. And so all of this was going on. Wilbur remained more of a total Czech town. We had a lot of Germans here and a few other immigrants, but mostly Czechs. And then we had this influx of New Englanders coming. And we did have the first Czech to enter Nebraska actually became a Saline County resident. He came through in 1854 on the way to the gold fields and then came back and settled in Nebraska. And any of you, I'm mentioning this because I know some of you are from around here and grew up and went to high school here. And this is Joseph Franzel, and he is an ancestor of Jim Krebs. Everybody that ever grew up around Crete always knew Jimmy Krebs. He was a great historian. So President David Brainerd Perry comes in 1872 to run the college. He marries Thomas Doane's daughter, Helen, and Thomas Doane had built himself a house south of town, so he was living here part-time, while he was working on the school and the railroad. And he marries, President Perry marries the boss's daughter, and they start a family. And so this family was really hit with the Czech culture when you think about it, coming from Massachusetts. And so President Perry learned Bohemian to recruit students, and there's different records about that. His kids were certainly exposed, and this pertains to our Czech thing because I feel like his daughter, Helen, so he had a wife, Helen, Big Helen, and a daughter, Helen, Little Helen. That's what the family called them, Big and Little Helen. And so Helen Perry, who married a Curtis, became very interested in the Eastern European culture as she became an adult and went on to a career. Now, those of you who come to Doane for different alumni events know our Curtis room, and always have had a small dining room called the Curtis room. That's named after Helen Perry Curtis. And so Helen, young Helen, she was a museum curator and interested in the arts, and I'm not going to go there because there's a great biography coming out about our Helen Perry Curtis, and I don't know, Laura, if Laura's on, our biographer, but if she is, that's great. And so that's another whole story, and that is due out in the fall. And so we'll keep track of that because we want to read all about Helen. She had an interesting life growing up in Crete, and I just think that has to be possibly why she became intrigued by these Eastern European outfits, music, whatever. So thousands of our Doane alums boast Czech ancestry. Years ago, when we were running the concerts, an elder hostel and everything, we even had people marked CZ in our database because we wanted to keep track of them, and they wanted to know what we were doing. And longtime co-worker on all this, Diane Prockel Brown, she might be watching, she thought of that idea, and it was great. And we had tons of people in this, and if we wanted to send them a note or whatever, we just kind of knew who was interested in anything Czech. Non-Czech students, of course, were heavily exposed, as I said, because on the streets of Crete, you would hear the language. Into the 1980s, there were nearby festivals, and so any Don student had to know they were in Czech country, you would think. So this is what happened this year. The Czech pride runs strong in Nebraska, and sometimes when we're in the Czech Republic, people are amazed at how much we know about their culture. Now, we know about 19th century culture and some travelers who speak the language. We've had a few travelers, Judy Brush, if you're on, we took her dad there, and he was talking away in Old Town Square and having quite a conversation, and to some of those horse and carriage, the drivers of the horse and carriage, and a driver came over to our guide and said, "What village is that man from? He speaks such good Czech, but it's a certain dialect." Well, it was probably 19th century Czech. So we've had a lot of fun with that. And so a lot of these heavily populated Czech towns in Nebraska have festivals. And here we go. Look at them all canceled. We have a ton of Czechs in Butler and Saunders County. Those are, we like to call them more the Catholic counties. There's more beautiful Catholic churches. Down south here in Saline, we're part of the free thinking movement, and we kind of gravitate to the halls. Well, anyway, here's our sad 2020 poster. And so we can have no Czech festivals. And so we're going to go back, and I'm going to take you to Wilbur last year. And this is what my family and I do. Some of you have been roped into helping. Some friends, some sewing friends come because they don't mind sitting there. And a lot of my friends are also Czech, of course, so they get off on it. I want to say that this exhibit that is just simply a kind of a right-brained thing. It was not a planned exhibition. I did not wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'd like to have a costume exhibit." The word for costume is kroy or kroya in plural, so that's why you'll see this term sometimes. And I was just shopping, again, on the hunt for what my ancestors would wear, and I would end up in some antique shops over there in this country around, and I'd see some old piece. So it just evolved. But the Wilbur Czech Museum on Main Street has a fabulous collection of all kinds of costumes. I think they even have a couple Slovak representatives. And so if you're in Wilbur, you have to go there, because it's not just costumes, it's everything, and history of Wilbur. And so we're going to go in pretty quick. And so I must say that even though we had all this stuff, and I would take it sometimes to our Czech concerts, set up a lady with on a mannequin, and we talk about it at Elder Hostel. People kept saying we need to bring the show to Wilbur. Even though the Wilbur Czech Museum has a fabulous exhibition, I have a few different things. And so the Kunzel family nicely allow us to take over the funeral home. And you can see the funeral home doesn't always have an open sign, but for our weekend, we have our sign up when it's open. And so they've been so nice, and we might drive them nuts as we haul in 8 to 10 van and truckloads of things. My late husband and I started this, and it was 2009 we started this. And now that he's gone, my daughters help, and other friends and family who didn't get roped into it also help. And so the exhibit has expanded to include wall cloths, some socal things, sheet music, and all of Ted's accordions, and who knows what all we'll go in and see. And let's go on. these are the three regions that are represented with my costuming. I have a few other odd parts, but so we're going to first start here on the left-hand side of the map. There's that arrow pointing to Domažlice, and that is, again, West Bohemia. And a lot of the people came from there. The Sincula family that were from around Crete are from that region. And this is the Hod region. Let's go see what I've got. Here's some people. So this is, again, you would need to maybe study up a little more, because I can't tell it all, but the Hods were German border guards, and they had a few privileges. Their masters, they didn't have to abide by all the feudal laws, and so they had certain freedoms. And to make a long story short, they had a leader, Jan Kootena, and he was executed way back 1690, became a martyr. And so that's why in the Hod folk art, you see black, because they're in constant mourning. Eve Bach explained all of this to me. And so those poppies, the red poppies on the black pottery, these scarves that we're going to see, and these are headscarves that I just have draped over these stands, because you'll notice my mannequins are more dress forms and they don't have heads, so they can't have a scarf on. And so this is the typical attire. And we'll see more. And like I said, I don't know how well you can see them all, but the little boy, I bought that complete outfit in Domažlice, actually. And I bought it for my little grandson, and then I thought it's too good to give to the little 2-year-old to wear. So I found this doll, and he's wearing it. We'll see, okay, here is a detail of a scarf, and they're tied in a certain way. Look at the ladies in the bottom, the two ladies, it's draped all over their head, and each point of the scarf has these beautiful embroideries, and one comes down the front shoulder and one hangs down your back. Here's a nice picture of a lady. And then, of course, I should explain, the costumes are like your uniform, and they kind of date back to feudal times when the Lord would dress you a certain way. And if you were sent on an errand and you decided to, I'm going to say run away, I'm not an expert on this, but obviously people would go, oh my gosh, what is that person from Velasco doing here? Because it kind of gave you away. Well, they kind of revived in the 19th century and are kind of a national identity, and you wear, maybe for your wedding, you would wear your authentic national croix or whatever, but in the fields, you're not wearing that. So the lady on the right is wearing a practical outfit, and just cotton, and she's got her apron. Here's some more, and here's some more of these practical outfits. And I just had to put these funny pictures in. My kids will probably have a fit, but I'm always on the hunt for bodies to put the clothes on. And so I dug this poor sad doll that somebody had butchered her hair out of the basement of my niece's shop. And she looks pretty good. She's wearing a Wilbur costume. And we call it that because Wilbur has had the festival since the early 60s, and they decided there that the craft shop should make some outfits because people needed some. And they chose, somebody thought it was a little bit of a takeoff on Telch, but you can now recognize it's their own identity, and it's great. And even my Czech friends say, that's just great. They're not authentic, maybe from an old country village. Now, we set up a research area too, because people come through, they get excited, and they want to tell us, oh, I'm from Saline County, I don't know where I'm from. And so we have Rosicky's book there, and we have Margie Sabatka's book, which I don't have a picture of, and we have a detailed atlas. it's just nice because the Wilbur Public Library, I have to give them a plug. They have a fabulous heritage room, but they can't be open all the time at Czech Festival and handle the people. So it's kind of nice that we have a few things. Then this is a special history, a Nebraska history edition. There was a fabulous exhibit at the State Historical Society in, I'm going to say 1992, but I know this is when this came out. I could be a little bit off. And my colleague David Murphy was the editor of this, and this is a great source of information about Nebraska Czechs. So the exhibit was called The Heart of Two Continents because Nebraska's in the heart of this continent and the Czech Republic's in the heart of Europe. And so if you can get a hold of that, you'll want to read that. And then we have a great big huge map. It's a terrible glare picture, but people can come and get an idea. Moving around, I brought this, I have this goddess embroidery. That's what's, there's all kinds of folk traditions, and this embroidery, if you look at these figures, the four-piece black, I'm going to say the head, is like the head, and those red things are the arms. And I went to a conference in Cedar Rapids about goddess embroidery once at the Czech Museum there, and then I realized I had one. Here's some more people from, I call them people, I'm kind of weird, I'm talking to these mannequins sometimes. And here's another rescue doll, and this, she's wearing an authentic little kid's outfit from Domažlice, that they make these new little jumpers because the kids, they don't want them all tied up. Another tradition in the Czech Republic is puppetry. And so this is a puppet. This inset is a detail of the puppet that's on display there, but she's dressed in a hood costume, so that's why she's here. Moving into the chapel, this building is set up so perfectly because it's a circular pattern. We have a collection of Czech postcards on the right, and we're looking down now toward the Velasco area. I'm not pronouncing my endings right, I am sure. Now here's something interesting. On the left on the rack is some underwear, and you can't see it very well, but under those giant outfits, they would wear sort of a chemise, the women, and those are like pantaloons on the right. And then in the inset is my mom, and she was selected by the Nebraska Quilt Guild to make the Saline County block. If you go to the Nebraska State Fair in Grand Island, they have a quilt block for every county. They selected quilters, and you could pick something to represent your county. She knew right away it needed to be the Czech dancers, so we went and got permission from the Nebraska Czechs of Wilbur, created a pattern, and it's, I don't know how well you can see it, but so we just have a, and that's hanging now in Grand Island. Here is another view of, and we're getting into the wall cloths. And on the left, those red cloths are Helen Perry Curtis's that she collected in Czech, well, it would be, she was there when it was Czechoslovakia, I guess. And Pat and Martha and Susie, her granddaughters, when they knew I was doing all this, they sent me a bunch of her things so that they could be on display. So they're out at our Crete Museum too. They're not all on display yet, but some of them get to come to Wilbur because part of her collecting was not all Czech. It was, there's Croatia, and she just had some fabulous things. At the show, or at the exhibit, I have a looping slideshow of all regions, tons of regions, and I've collected 1 million books. I'm always buying books there to figure out what every little, it's like I can never get it done, but like to explain it, and I'm trying to hurry so that we don't go too late. If Saline County ladies wore red skirts and black vests, Wilbur might have green trim on their skirt and Crete might have blue trim. I mean, it is that intricate. So you would look and go, oh, she's from Crete. And that's how it is over there. So there's such a, you can't figure it out. So I have collected all these wall cloths, and they, they have sayings on them. They're like decorative pieces for your house, and you might have them behind your pitcher and wash stand. And they say in Czech things like, cleanliness is half of healthiness. If you don't have happiness in the home, you won't find it elsewhere, and just things like that. So what we've done is we have them hanging on these clotheslines all around, and I have the English translations pinned on them, but people say we should probably have a contest or a game and see, because many people come through, and we have people that speak Czech and they're from the Czech Republic, and so they've helped us translate this. A nice lady and her husband from Canada came one year, and she sent me this blueprint cloth is Moravian. And she said she didn't have anybody in her family to leave it to, and this beautiful cut work her mother did. And so we put that out, and here's some more cloths. And this is interesting. So this is Kartace, and I can't say the Hachek are very well, Rizhbini. And these are wall pockets that you might have where you're getting dressed by your pitcher and wash bowl. And that's to put your combs and brushes in. Now we're going to Kyiv. Now, a lot of people from here in Nebraska are from this region too. And there's a very interesting thing. And I want to point out to our Doan family people that the wreath on the left, the yellow wreath on that head, is one that Helen Perry Curtis brought back. And to the right, the lady with the 3 circles on her back, that's Helen's skirt and apron. She's wearing my vest, but I named that figure Helen. And so the Kyiv aprons are very intricate, as you can see. And the cool thing about them, and I hope you can see the date in the upper right-hand corner, move my head, because I took a picture. The ladies always hid the date in the apron. And this is a fabulous one. It's the apron on the top of the display, and you can see the 1906 barely can be seen. Here's Helen front on, and she's got little Albert, the Doan family mascot, with her. So this is a full Kyiv outfit, and Helen's apron has a date, upper right. I don't know, again, if I'm covering it, but it's 1897. This lady didn't do such a great job hiding it, but it's still nice. The boots are typical Kyiv. They're like accordions.
And Janet, before you move on, this is
Yeah.
Anne. I just want to go ahead and tell everybody we're going to have just a few minutes at the very end to take some questions. So
Okay.
if you have some questions for Janet, go ahead and start typing those in now. And so when she's finished, then we can go to those questions. If you're joining us on Zoom, just be sure to type your questions into the question and answer box. It's that Q&A at the very bottom of your toolbar there. Or if you're joining us from Facebook, leave us a question in the comment section, and then we'll be ready to go once Janet finishes up.
Great. And we're getting there. I always probably talk too much, but this, so we're in Moravia for sure. We've got Kyiv with Helen on the left, and I do have captions on all these. So I told the story a little bit about Helen, our New England girl lady who got so interested and went and took her 2 daughters and everything. And I just think that's pretty cool. And so the break now, let's see, you can see the Kyiv people have these blue aprons, but to the right now is our family region. So any Zavodny relatives that are on, this is our outfit. And typically the blueprint cloth skirt and that red vest to the right with the mannequin with the shepherd's hook, because we are shepherds. Mountain people, it's in the part of the Carpathian mountain system, the Beskidi Mountains. And the villages were in the valleys, but many people lived on the slopes in these little houses. They were in like Pasikas, I think, and highland farmers. That's what my ancestors were doing. They raised sheep and they were wood choppers clearing the land. And so they always had very plain clothing. However, the lavender one, the lavender vest, and that other pretty vest, these are more like weddings or going to a special occasion. And my good friend Alinka, who lives there in Dolny Bechva, she knows my size, and she's always finding me cool things because she wants me to come back here and look right. Now, the lady on the right, the head on the right is showing what a married woman would wear. She has a little bit of lace coming out from under her scarf. And here's another view of this group. And here are the lower bottom, or on the bottom, you see the shoes and socks. So like if I'm wearing that outfit with the long shepherd hook, that's what I did show in the first picture. I'm wearing these shoes and wool socks because you know it's cold up there. And that's the other thing. The factors in the design of the kroya depend on where you live. Like in the fishing country, they might have used carp scales for beads. We have wool in this area because we're shepherds. Now moving along, oh gosh, that was not good. We're getting there, kids. I hit the, so we're going now into a different section, and this is moving into the accordion section and some music. And a lot of you, if you came to Elder Hostel or if you were on a trip, we were making you sing Fishnets all the time. And it was written by Karl Hosler, yeah, with the hot check, a songwriter, actor, screenwriter. He was murdered in a concentration camp in 1941, but he wrote Fishnets. And it's the song of Bohemia. It's very popular. It's not the national anthem, but people sing it a lot. And so on this table, we have a few more of the pieces that he wrote. And we have a sample here of the Hoshlerki, which is like a lozenge. And apparently, I might not have all the details. It's on my caption in there. But he had a sore throat, and he was a singer and actor, and I don't know if a local druggist or what, but they created a formula. They named it after him, and you can still buy Hoshlerki today. It's pretty good. Here's our Sokol section. And the hoops and clubs are from our Crete Benny Museum. The parade coat was my husband's. He bought it at an antique store in Cedar Rapids. And so Sokol is a gymnastic movement, started in Prague in 1862, came to the United States 1865. In Crete, it started in 1887. And so the motto is a sound mind and a sound body. And the ladies wore these blouses with some blue pantaloon things. And so we have a lot of the Sokol collection here at our Crete Museum, and that's great. We like to put it out. And the guy in the picture on the left is Miloš Burz or Miloslav. Now I can't remember his full name. So that's that. And then here's the accordion collection. And I think last year we took 55 accordions. We are nuts. And Ted and I both played accordion, and he started collecting them like some people collect salt and pepper shakers. And some of these don't work. They're just really cool representations. But he played all the ones on the back row. And so we just bring them all, and we have some interesting, a lot of our ancestors would have brought Hlavačeks to this country, and so we have a collection of those. And so we tried to find out information about the various makers. Moving around, we have a lot of great sheet music. Sarah Freoff from here in Crete and Evelyn Schleiss from Wilbur gave these to me. They live at the museum in Crete when we're not on the road with the display. Some of you who were familiar with Crete remember the John Kochi Orchestra, and that's his band front there with that J and K. And so there were companies like Chicago and so on who printed the music in Czech for the brass bands. Now, every now and then, some people go crazy and they ask if they can play a few accordions. So if there are some guests, so here's Darl Mickle of our local Radio Shack fame. He just sold it. He's learning the accordion now in his retirement. And then in the bottom right is Laddie Bruja from Ord. He has a polka band. Daughter Liz is playing the stomp fiddle. It's a traveling percussion instrument you can make out of some kitchen utensils. And of course, we're just in Wilbur, it's parade time. We always have a doane entry, and some people have been lucky enough, or we've conned them into throwing candy for us. So here's the kids, and you see in the lower right, even the tiniest kids have a Czech outfit. You can't be without a Czech outfit. Here's Bobby Phi, Marty's brother. A lot of you know Marty, probably know Bobby. He was our longtime driver for the Model T, and now he owns the Model T, but he still comes and we still do our thing. And the tiger comes, and we've got people walking along throwing candy. Liz and I usually play music. Sometimes we're in the car, sometimes we're walking, and usually we have our orange shirts on, so I'm not sure what's going on here. And here we go. And I said, in this pandemic age, it looks like Bobby has a mask on, but it's really the rear view mirror. This is last year, and we got caught in a bit of a not a downpour, but a rain. And so Tiger got a little wet, and he had to go to the basement of the funeral home and dry up, and he's fine. And this is what we were gonna display this year, but we can't. A nice lady in Lincoln, Joanne Vilda, was downsizing. She and her husband had a lot of Czech costumes. He even made the feather brushes and taught people. And we lost him, and she called and asked if I wanted to come see some stuff. And so I did. And it was at the time of the Czech and Slovak Genealogical Conference last October, and they had a style show going. So we immediately made Liz wear this Slovak outfit. I didn't have anything from Slovakia, and that's fine. Like I say, I'm not really on a planned hunt, but she looked pretty darn great in it, and so it's going to go on a dress form for next year. This Trnava is right over the line from Czech Republic, so it's not too far in. And we got another Kiev apron, and it's got a 1901 date, and it's hiding in there, if you can see. And then the exciting thing is this Blata region. It's the fish area. There's lakes and ponds in South Bohemia. And the design, this is kind of a simplified apron, but you see the scallops kind of, and that's representing waves. And I'm not sure, I've got to still research. But anyway, that is the end. And you can stay connected. There's a newspaper called the Slavnosti that's nationwide. It's published out of Wilbur. And there's all kinds of websites. Go to the Wilbur Museum. There's Nebraska Bohemians. If you're on Facebook, there's all kinds of Facebook pages. So do search that. But anyway, so we can have some questions.
You bet.
You
bet, Janet. We do have a few questions that have come in, and if there's anybody else who would like to have a question answered by Janet, you can sure do that now. I'm going to stop the participant sharing right now, Janet, so that you and I can see each other and talk about some of these questions that just came in. And while our audience is writing questions, I just want to make sure and tell you thank you for joining us today. You have just been this long-standing community member here at Doane, and you continue to support the university with your knowledge and expertise. So you're just a familiar, welcoming face for everybody here, past and present, and we really appreciate your commitment. So thank you for being with us here today.
And one thing I didn't mention is our Czech Concert Committee wanted to have something to show for these concerts, and so that's who created the Czech Scholarship.
Oh,
good. That you know about advancement, and it's endowed scholarship, and that all came out of that grassroots Czech concert. So anyway.
Great.
So what questions?
Well, here's a couple of questions that have come in. This first one is from Jenny Watton, and she says, Janet, how do you find the village studies, the AKA house histories? She's looking for some for Western Bohemia.
Okay. You should just email me the names, because it's like an Easter egg hunt. Like, we didn't know it. Like, I was there with a lot of our Zavodny family members and the Peñases. Peggy, if you're on, you'll remember that. The town hall was open. A man invited us in. They were excited. We were from there, and he said, here, would you like some books? And they had just celebrated their 600th anniversary. And they gave us that one book, and we were just flabbergasted. And then last year, no, 18, I was in Duzbanov, and I go there a lot because it's right near where we stay. And I went, and in my poor Czech, I was asking if they had a postcard or something. And finally the lady goes, you know, and she goes to the cupboard and pulls out that book that is like fabulous. It was, and so, but somebody else told me they found one. I think more towns are doing it. They're surveying their old buildings, cataloging them. So, but you should tell me where you're from. What if I accidentally am there?
So Janet, if they want to contact you, they would just email janet.jeffries@doane.edu, right?
Yeah, so, and that's like, if you really want me to look something up, I have a ton of books about all kinds of things and some good atlases. So I'm happy to, I get excited about anybody's genealogy. Oh, hi, Monica.
Yeah, Monica's on here. And Monica actually is the next question I had.
Okay.
She wanted to know when your next tour to the Czech Republic will be.
Well, of course, we had to cancel this year, and we were to go September 3rd, but with the COVID. And so we have rescheduled till June 3rd, but who knows? I mean, if things, so, but we did just bump it up, and, you know, we're hoping and thinking, but maybe we have to wait till 2022 to go. So they should email me and just so we know that they might be interested.
Sure, sure. And Monica has your email address now too, janet.jeffries@doane.edu. We also have something, it says it's from Larry Wires. It might very well be Lois Wires on here too. But they want to know, where do you display your collection when it's not at the funeral home during Czech days?
At my house. No, I can hardly get into my house. I mean, I bring it out, parts of it out, but having access to that beautiful funeral home building and be able to bring it out, that's really fun because we forget what all we have. So really, there isn't, it's been at our local museum once in a while, and maybe some of it will come again, but if that's Lois, it is sad because, you know, there is no home. Somebody said I should build my own building, but that's a little rash. So I'm not sure what the answer is going to be on that.
Got it. Joyce wants to know, where can I get designs or stencils of different Czech designs that she can use to paint for an outdoor sign?
Actually, the Wilbur Public Library, the Dvorak Library, has old pattern books for costumes, but then they have all those details. They have it's a fabulous collection, 8 different regions. And then I think sometimes you can simply Google Czech design. I mean, I have stuff at home too that when I'm there, I'll be at a fabric shop and see something, so I could share. I mean, you know, like if she wants to write to me.
Sure, sure. And then Beverly Cruz has a question. She said, do eyelets on aprons represent fishnets?
They could. And see, the problem is, Bev, I can't read Czech that well. I do pretty well, but I think I have a book on Blata and that fishing area, and I think there's a lot that we don't know. But I think that's my thought. It's a good, I really think that's right, but it's our gut instinct.
Sure, sure. And then we have one final question that's come in so far. It's from Leona. And she says, what would be a good resource to research the style of Croy from different areas of the Czech Republic?
Well, that is the $64,000 question, because when Eve and I started Elder Hostel and we wanted to do a slideshow on that, we borrowed a book from the university library, and it's called National Costumes of Czechoslovakia. And it was in English and fabulous pictures. Of course, they still aren't going to have every little tweensy village. There's like thousands. And so that book you can sometimes find on eBay. It's way out of print, but that was our first Bible. And then there are books, like if you go on Amazon and type in Czech costumes, and I can give you some names. I met the lady who's the curator of the National Museum in Prague, and she works with the Kroja. And I met her in Cedar Rapids at that conference, and I went to her and I said, I'm from Little Michel area, but my village is up north, and it's, you know, I explained, and she said, and she just looked at me and she says, I've been studying this for 40 years and I don't really know. you know, and that I get a lot of questions from queen candidates too, like they want to make a costume for the pageant wearing their exact village, and who knows? So a lot of times, like last year, there was well, maybe not last year, there was a lady or a girl whose family was near Telch, and I said, you could make a Telch costume and tell the judges that your people lived 8 miles away, and it was probably very similar. So really, that's my lifelong quest, and that's why I'm constantly looking for books. And whether I can really read them or not, the pictures are there. We've had several Czech queens go through Doane, by the way. We've had several students who were Czech queens. You might have known some of them, Ann.
That we have. And in fact, I worked with Stephanie Vasasic at Time Warner, and she was one during that time too. We have time for one final question, I think. And the final one's from Marla Joe, and she says, could you repeat the info on the popular song you mentioned?
Písnička Česká, P-I-S, I don't know if you're writing this down, but Marla, I can tell you this. Marla's my newfound cousin, by the way. I found her, I think, on Facebook. P-I-S-N-I-C-K-A, and then Česká, C-E-S-K-A, and by Karl Hassler, and it's H-A-S-L-E-R. So look him up because it's a sad story, and you know, you might find that very interesting.
So many of those songs do start out from a sad story, that's for sure.
Oh, Karen Hellwig wrote it here. That's great. Hi, Karen.
Good, good. Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone. We sure appreciate you being here today. This webinar has been recorded, and it's going to be shared online soon. We'll make sure to send you an email, too, for those of you joining us today. It may not be until later on tomorrow, but we'll send that link to you so that you can share that with your friends, too. But to see a lineup of new webinars, just go to doane.edu/lifelongtigers. And our next webinar will take place on Thursday, August 20th at 12 p.m. Central, and will feature Peggy Sandel Bertrand from the class of 1996. And she's going to talk about going from a colleague to a leader and what does it mean to become a new manager, especially when you're a manager that has to lead your friends. So we'll be sure to see her in August. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. And as always, go Doane.
Yep.